I am not sure where the misunderstanding came from about Dune Awakening being a forced PvP game. Because it's been like the number one commentary I've seen in all of my VODs and throughout the live streams all this weekend. Wait, Renfail, how is it possible that you're playing by yourself as a solo player? How is it that no one's attacking you? What do you mean no one can steal your stuff? What do you mean no one can break into your base? What do you mean no one can attack you? I thought this was a forced PvP game. And I think maybe some of that confusion comes from a lot of the discussions that have been had around the greater scope of what's going to be sort of the totality of content in Dune Awakening beyond the main story. That is the late game content related to the Deep Desert. There's been a lot of commentary around the Deep Desert and the multiplayer components of this game, but not a lot of commentary around the fact that all of that is optional side content that is what you're going to be doing after you finish the main story of the game, and it's not all that there is to do. The Landsrad, which is tied to the end game, not only has PvP content, but it also has PvE content. But let me back up a little bit, because the journey to get to the late game and the end game, where the optional side content is all about following the journey of your character from the start of the game, from character creation all the way through. And all of that 100% is player versus environment. It's you against the world of Arrakis, and it's all about the survival, crafting, gameplay loop, the creation of your base, the exploration of the dungeons, which you can do by yourself or you could do alongside other players. So, especially if you've read the books, Canley is the law that governs everybody on the planet of Arrakis, and that is a law that forbids direct confrontation. But the deep desert is where all bets are off because everyone's, fighting over the spice and other super rare resources. But let's talk about, let's ignore the end game for a minute and talk about the rest of the game where there are hundreds of hours, if not more, of entertainment to be had, none of which requires PvP, none of which requires you to ever play with another player if you don't want to ever. It's it's just one of those things. So let's talk about it. I'm here, and I'm going to show you at the very base level how things are set up. So I'm at my base right now, and at my base on the front door is a button that says Manage. And if you go into the Manage on your base, you're going to notice that the default setting for the bases that you build is that only associates of yours can access the home. Now you could take this and say I want it to be guild only, or I want it to be public, or you could take this even further in the opposite direction and only co-owners can access it, or only me ever. Period. Not only can you set the overall permissions for your base, you could also individually set the door, which means you could theoretically have a base that is set up like a guild hall if you wanted to, where only guild members can even open the front door and come into the base. And from here, you can then go in and take each one of your crafting stations and individually set up the permission for those different crafting stations. There's lots of ways that you can adjust the settings, but the default is that only associates of you can come into your house and access your stuff. So they have to be someone who's an associate. Your vehicles, it's you only. No one can ever touch your vehicles. That's it. Now the caveat to this is that if your shields come down on your base, people can't come into your base and take your stuff. So it is important that you keep shields up on your base, because this is one of the aspects of the game where if the shields go down for whatever reason and someone stumbles across your base, they can come in and loot any of your containers that you have, and you don't necessarily want that to happen. So don't let your shields go down. Be that as it may, if you've been following along my streams and my content, we've been exploring. We did 27 hours throughout the beta weekend, and in that time, we did 3 zones. We did all the quests that were available, and we did the tutorial shipwreck, and we did was it 4 or 5 Imperial testing stations? I can't remember how many are accessible. I think it's 4 in total. And the way this works is that these right here, the green on the map, the shipwrecks, those are PvP, clearly marked on the map by green icons. And when you get over there to those green icons, they will tell you you're entering into a PvP area. Those are the only PvP areas on the Haga Basin maps, right, that we're exploring. Everything else outside of these green areas, everything else, all of this is player versus environment. Either you by yourself or you grouping up with your friends to go explore um, these areas. Now, you and you alone dictate how you want to play the game. If you want to participate in group-based content, you can. The multiplayer component is there. Or if you're like me and you're a solo player, you can do all of this solo. There are other shipwrecks that you will find. There's a shipwreck here. There's another shipwreck somewhere over here. I don't remember exactly where it's at the moment. Oh, there it is right there. Um, those shipwrecks are PvP. Everything else is player versus environment, meaning no one can touch you unless you consent to them damaging you. And the entirety of the Haga Basin is like that. This is where you're going to be journeying through the story of Dune Awakening and going on that crafting survival loop. If you've ever played New World Eternum, that's probably the easiest example I could give you of how this plays more or less, because you have all of this content that you can do by yourself or with your friends, and it's all related to the story. And in New World Eternum, it was like 100 hours between the base game and the 2 DLCs, like 100 hours of content. Then on top of that, you have the crafting and the housing, which gives you another dozens to hundreds of hours of entertainment, depending on how deep you get into that. And then apart from that, you have the faction warfare and the PvP content. Same thing here. Big open map, lots of quests. All of those are things you can do by yourself or with friends, completely free from other players. They can't attack you, they can't steal your stuff, they can't kill you. None of that applies unless you choose to go into the shipwrecked areas, which are open PvP. And then there's the factions related to the Atreides and the Harkonnens, so you can ally yourself with either faction, and there's consequences, pros and cons to that decision. And then you get to the end game, which is the deep desert. The deep desert is late game, end game content. If you've ever played an online multiplayer game before, whether it's Lord of the Rings Online, Star Wars: Age of Republic, World of Warcraft, EverQuest 1 or EverQuest 2, Final Fantasy 14, insert, Diablo 3, Diablo 4, insert Division 2, I could keep going. This is how all of these games operate. You have arguably 60 to 80 hours of base storyline content to play through before you get to the end game. And the end game is usually some type of group-based activity where you're getting together with lots of other players, sometimes PvP, sometimes PvE, and then you do those things on a regular basis. Same thing here. Once you get through the main story of the game, you get into the Landsrad, and the Landsrad is what governs the late game deep desert content with these, think of them as weeklies, kind of weeklies and dailies and those type of tasks that change on a regular basis. And the objective of the late game is the deep desert is where the spice blows happen, and it's where people go to get the best resources of the game for those people who want to get into the gear grind and max level, weapons, max level vehicles, and all that stuff apart from the story. And that's where you go to do all that stuff. That's what you do after you finish the main story of the game. Now, we already know in advance that Dune Awakening has multiple DLCs coming down the pipeline, which continue the story of the game. So if you're someone like me who is playing this as a story-based crafting survival RPG, then you play it like you would any other crafting survival RPG. You get your X amount of hours out of it, whether that's 60 hours, 80 hours, or 100 hours, and you play other things in between. And then when the DLC comes out, you come back and you check out the story. Maybe you dip your toes into the Landsrad from time to time when they have PVE opportunities spring up. Maybe you even decide to dip your toes into the deep desert with a couple of your friends, or maybe you even get up the balls to do it on your own. Quick commercial break, everyone, to celebrate and give thanks to all of these amazing people who keep me on the air full time. Really appreciate the support. All you got to do is join as a member. You get access to private videos. You can also do super thanks on any upload or super chats and stickers on any live stream or premiere you see. And beyond that, don't forget we're multi-streaming over on Twitch now, so you can support over there as well. Thanks so much to everybody. Let's get back to the video at hand. Just to check it out and test it. But it's optional content. The PvP in Dune Awakening is never forced, never mandatory. Anyone who tells you that it's mandatory is someone who has a little bit of a warped perspective on, you have to have the best gear to be effective, and if you don't have the best gear, then you're not really playing the game, and best gear, you gotta be the best, PvP. That doesn't apply if you're a casual Carebear story player like myself. I'm just here to survive on Arrakis, to explore a place that I've only ever seen on TV or in films or read about in books. I'm getting to immerse myself in that environment. I'm going through this really cool RPG with awesome cutscenes and some really cool voice acting. And on top of which, there's an interactive, survival crafting game where I can get, build some really cool bases like we've been doing here. And along the way, I can craft some vehicles. And let's back out of here and take a look. It's there's a lot going on, and at no point do you have to do any PvP. By the way, one of the coolest things was if you watched the stream this morning, I was running through a dungeon first thing, and somebody charged at me with shields up, and I panicked. Oh, I don't want to get caught by the starter car. I panicked and was like unloaded like 3 or 4 clips of my disruptor into them, and I was like, wait, why aren't they taking damage? Why aren't they dying? This has got to be a bug, before I realized that it was another player. And because you can't damage other players in the PvE environments outside of shipwrecks, it was the perfect example of the people who were tuning into the stream that, yeah, in this game, PvP is optional. You can't harm another player unless you're in those open PvP areas where Canley laws don't apply, and those are few and far apart. There are exceptions to that, like you can get into, if you're gonna be into the PvP, you can go read up on it, because they have a lot of details on PvP for the people who want to be. But the big thing is that if you are someone who just wants to play Dune Awakening for the story, and you just want to explore the environments, and maybe you want to play solo, or you're to play with your brother or your your significant other, or a couple of your friends, maybe 5 or 10 of your friends, form your own guild and create a guild hall, and you share resources and all that other stuff, and have crafting stations. You do it. You can do that. It's totally up to you. At no point in time is anyone ever going to interrupt your fun, and at no point in time do you ever have to do PvP if you don't want to. The only caveat is that there are open areas of the world that you need to be aware of, and of course, if your shields ever come down on your home, then it's fair game. So you need to make sure that you've always got fuel cells keeping the shields up, because otherwise the stuff in your house could be potentially stumbled upon by astute players who are like, oh, wait, I can open this door because the shields are down. Ooh, what's in here? So keep that in mind. In any case, hopefully that clears up any confusion from people about PvP, because I'm a Carebear. I don't participate in PvP. This is the first... no, it's not. It's not the first. This is the second game I've played in, almost forever. Like, New World Eternum was the first game I had played in a very long time that I was even remotely interested in, because I knew that I could play it from a PvE perspective. I knew that I could just pick it up, play through the storyline, not worry about PvP, go do it if I wanted to join a faction, but it was that optional activity. And I got 100 hours of the storyline. Excuse me. We streamed it all, I made some guides, and I treated it like I do every other single-player RPG I play. I played it, I moved on to the next game, I moved on to the next game, I moved on to the next game. Dune Awakening is no different. I'm treating it like a single player RPG. I'll be coming back for the DLCs, and I'll probably be spending a lot of time in between working on base building and general exploration. And I do plan on dipping my toes into the Lands Rad with the PvE content, but I will probably never do PvP. It's just not something I care to participate in. And it doesn't bother me one little bit because I'm still going to get my money's worth out of the dozens to 100 plus hours of entertainment that I'm going to get out of this game just doing the storyline, building my bases, and exploring what is here on the sands of Arrakis. Thanks for listening. I'll see you guys at the next one. Like, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. Daily streams at around 5 a.m. Central on YouTube and Twitch. And don't forget to check out the Dune Awakening playlist down below, which has a bunch of guides and all my streams and everything else. And if you want to, there's an affiliate link down there where I benefit if you decide to pre-order the game. So see you next time, everybody. Stay safe and don't get eaten by the worm.